This is my response to David Pakman's video that he posted on YouTube, where he's covering the fact that Alex Jones showed up or was interviewed on the BBC Sunday Politics show, where they were covering the mysterious Bilderberg conference from June 6th. That took place from June 6th through the 9th of this year at the Grove Hotel in Watford, England. So Alex Jones freaks out on this Sunday Politics show on the BBC. And so first off, I'd like to say, and this guy, David Pakman, is covering it. So first off, I'd like to say that maybe David's not aware of this, but it is in fact unconstitutional for private citizens of the U.S. who are, in this case, leaders in business, education, etc., to engage in negotiations with members of foreign countries when such negotiations can have an influence on events and activities, both inside and outside of our country. So, you cannot. Okay, so only the president of the United States can conduct such negotiations. That's how it's been set up through the Logan Act. And now here is a part of the opinion of the court delivered by Justice Sutherland in 1936 from the case entitled United States versus Curtiss-Wright Export Corporation. So this is the opinion of the court. As Marshall said in his great argument of March 7th, 1800, in the House of Representatives, quote, "The president is the sole organ of the nation in its external relations, and its sole representative with foreign nations," end quote. So this is still Justice Sutherland speaking, though, in the opinion. He said, "The Senate Committee on Foreign Relations, at a very early day in our history, it was February 15th, 1816, reported to the Senate, among other things, as follows. The president is the constitutional representative of the United States with regard to foreign nations. He manages our concerns with foreign nations and must necessarily be most competent to determine when, how, and upon what subjects negotiation may be urged with the greatest prospect of success. For his conduct, he is responsible to the Constitution. The committee considers this responsibility the surest pledge for the faithful discharge of his duty. They think the interference of the Senate in the direction of foreign negotiations calculated to diminish that responsibility and thereby to impair the best security for the national safety. The nature of transactions with foreign nations, moreover, requires caution and unity of design, and their success frequently depends on secrecy and dispatch." End quote. So that is Justice Sutherland's take on the Logan Act in this court case, and I'm not going to go into what that court case was about, but okay. So now, here's the official list of people who attended the Bilderberg Conference this year. Susan Athey, professor of economics of Stanford Graduate School of Business. Jeff Bezos, founder and CEO of Amazon.com. Michael J. Evans, vice chairman of Goldman Sachs and Company. So here's the Who We Are at a Glance section of Goldman Sachs website. It says, the Goldman Sachs Group Incorporated is a leading global investment banking, securities and investment management firm that provides a wide range of financial services to a substantial and diversified client base that includes corporations, financial institutions, governments, and high net worth individuals. That's their mission statement, or whatever mission. Okay, so Timothy Geithner, former Secretary of the Treasury. Donald E. Graham, Chairman and CEO of the Washington Post Company. Washington Post, newspaper. Alex Karp, founder and CEO of Palantir Technologies. So here's the What We Do section of Palantir Technologies website. Quote, "We build software that allows organizations to make sense of massive amounts of disparate data. We solve the technical problems so they can solve the human ones. Combating terrorism, prosecuting crimes, fighting fraud, eliminating waste. From Silicon Valley to your doorstep, we deploy our data fusion platforms against the hardest problems we can find wherever we are needed most." Yeah. Problems. What kind of problems? Okay, so anyway. David H. Petraeus, General of U.S. Army. He's retired. Eric Schmidt he's the executive chairman of Google Incorporated. So now, let me get this straight. So we're supposed to accept that these individuals who are prominent economics professors, executives, owners, CEOs of websites that receive and handle gigantic amounts of data, such as Google and Amazon, global investment banking firms and data processing firms, former prominent leaders in politics who are now only private citizens, retired U.S. Army generals, and the list of private citizens who are not the president goes on and on. We're supposed to just accept that they get together at this conference and discuss things that they will not hold a press conference on to discuss further with the media. They will not allow the press to be present virtually at all, except outside the confines of where the conference is held. This year was in Watford, England. We're just supposed to accept that they meet in secret and don't discuss the proceedings. As the global economy worsens, inflation continues, the threat of increased conflict, particularly in the Middle East, education continues to deteriorate. Wall Street and London get richer by the millisecond, contributing to the ever-increasing true wealth gap in this country and this world. The NSA and company continue to invade our privacy. We're just supposed to accept the notion that these individuals are getting together for benevolent reasons. And if they are, they're trying to be good and they're trying to figure out solutions to the world's problems, then they're dumber than a box of rocks. Because clearly they're doing a terrible job of making things better. And they blame it on, things are so globalized now that there's so many factors. It's so hard to determine what is going to happen. And, all the factors, it just makes it so difficult. So that's why we need to get together and have this kind of a conference. Okay. So, that doesn't make sense. So now, in response to your question, David Pakman, either you asked the question of, do you think Alex Jones is playing a character, or is he legitimately, does he legitimately believe in all these conspiracies, and does he really think that, these people are getting together for all these bad reasons, and they're like the evil people around the world? So, in response to that question, either Alex Jones is not playing a character, and he believes in this stuff, and these conspiracies, and he just doesn't seem to understand that you can get your point across without freaking out like he did in this interview for BBC, because that doesn't help the credibility of his argument, or anyone who knows a lot of what he's trying to bring up on the radio show. It takes away from the credibility of their arguments, and it makes them seem false and just based in emotion and not in fact, not logic. Or, and I think this might be a little bit closer to the truth, he is playing a character, not only to make money, like you suggested in the video, but because he's employed by the very same people that he claims are running the world. And they employ him to say what he says, not for the money, but for these people who would be employing him. It's not for the money. For these people who are employing him are bankers. So the millions that Jones makes are pennies compared to the trillions, if not quadrillions of dollars that they deal with on a daily basis. So they employ him simply to discredit and diminish the arguments that anyone tries to make when they talk about controversial subjects like conspiracy theories. I sense a bit of sarcasm in your voice, David, when you're talking about Jones, which makes me think that if you had to choose which person is closer to the truth in this interview for the BBC, I would say that you would probably side with the gentleman who is alongside Alex Jones, who wasn't being nearly as rude, but claims that all these conspiracy theories are a joke and, whatever, they don't exist. And if you watch the original clip of that BBC Sunday Politics show where the interview you're referencing took place, the YouTube video, by the way, is called BBC Sunday Politics Show, Bilderberg Alex Jones interview. You will find several examples of how mainstream media does not help the credibility of such arguments. If you go back and look at this clip, they talk about how Jones is the king of conspiracy theorists. And then they show you the interviewer asking him if there are any conspiracies out there that Alex thinks are just too far-fetched to be true. And he says he doesn't think the people meeting at the conference are aliens. That's the clip from the interview that they chose to run. That's a clip from the interview that he had, the brief interview that this guy had outside of Bilderberg with Jones that they chose to run. That was the best clip. Come on. No baloney that they're not aliens. Obviously, they're not aliens. They're human beings. Okay? They couldn't run a clip from the interview that had a little more substance. You don't think that they asked Alex Jones some other question that had a little more substance and could have given people a little bit better sense of what is going on there? Or is the interview that terrible that this was the best clip? Either way, the interviewer and the BBC both do a terrible job of covering up. Both do a terrible job of covering this conference where the leaders of the world discuss policy and what direction to head in. Obviously, if you look at the way things are going right now, the only direction we're heading in is backwards. We've been heading in a backwards direction, besides this organization, since the assassination of John F. Kennedy, in almost every single sense. Politics, economics, um, technology. I mean, we have had advancements, We have smartphones. We built a space shuttle to fly to the moon, and like the most impressive thing we've done since then, I mean, besides the internet, which is fantastic, but besides the internet and the advent of computers, it's like that. And computers, smartphones. I mean, that's great for the spread of information, but I'm not going to go too much into it. We need to progress more on a bigger scale. That's why the economy is failing. So I would really appreciate it if you could give me a response. You can post it to my YouTube channel. I am the Trev Mike altogether on YouTube, and then also I'm in the process of creating my own website. So, but you can go to that YouTube channel and we can discuss things via YouTube. But I'd really like to see your response to this because I think I know what I'm talking about here.